We are blessed. Unlike the Battle Sisters, not only do we have a new cult ambush system and a new detachment pending, we have these Shrewd strategy rules that return the Crossfire ability. When it rains, it is another day in England. To use these rules, you need to have a copy of White Dwarf 507 or the ability to make notes from this video. The White Dwarf comes with all the rules and tokens to track these new abilities. The issue with the tokens that track the abilities is they are sadly smaller than 32mm, so they are not suitable as cult ambush markers, which now explicitly are 32mm tokens. You would need to stick them to cereal box card, and who can afford cereal these days? You don't need to have the tokens for the abilities. It is a way of remembering what upgrades your units have and showing your opponent that these neophytes are the better ones, not these very similar neophytes that are not upgraded. This is the basics of how it works. Before the declare battle formation step, before the battle starts, you gain 6 planning points. Not to be confused with the points you use to make an army, the resurgence points of cult ambush, or command points, or your victory points, or any of the points you need to track during the game. You spend these planning points before the game starts on Shrewd strategies. It is always 6 planning points regardless of the game size. Any you don't spend are lost. You can pick the same upgrade multiple times, but each unit can only have 1 upgrade. There are 6 to choose from. You put the tokens near the unit to remember which upgrade you have. For the purposes of Cult Ambush, if a unit is destroyed and replaced, the new unit does not have any Shrewd strategy upgrades. This feels a lot like the 9th edition unit upgrades, but this time you don't pay any army construction points to get them. They are for Genestealer Cult keyword units only, no Brood Brothers. But it is any Genestealer Cult unit, not limited to only infantry or only characters or anything else. Each ability costs a number of planning points. You will get most excited over the first one, Eyes of the Cult, which gives you Crossfire. Pure Crossfire. Other upgrades give you Crossfire and something else. The first upgrade is just the Crossfire ability on any one unit. It costs 1 of your 6 planning points. That's it. Models in the unit have the Crossfire keyword. What does Crossfire do in Warhammer 40,000 10th edition? In your shooting phase, each time you select a Crossfire unit to shoot, you can select up to 2 other Crossfire units from your army that are eligible to shoot to perform a deadly Crossfire. Then you can select 1 enemy unit that would be an eligible target for 1 or more ranged weapons equipped by models in each of the chosen Crossfire units. Until the end of the turn, that enemy is the Crossfire target. Each time one of those selected Crossfire units makes a ranged attack, models in that unit can only target their Crossfire target. If 2 Genestealer Cult Crossfire units were selected in total, add 1 to the hit roll. If 3 Genestealer Cult Crossfire units were selected, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. It is quite hard to set up, but it is a very useful bonus. Once you get to the +1 to wound, you can do serious damage to tanks and infantry alike. It is very much like the Brood Brothers Auxilia detachment rule, but that won't give you the +1 to wound. With Crossfire, up to all 3 units get all of the bonuses. It's not subsequent ones. It's not like, oh yeah, your Brood Brothers unit attacks, Genestealer Cult units attacking afterwards get +1 to hit. With Crossfire, the first unit and the second unit and the third unit are all getting +1 to hit and getting +1 to wound. And unlike 9th edition, you don't have to be able to draw a line through the unit, which required maps and graphs and an understanding of the line of sight rules, which are a kind of crazy thing in themselves. You just have to shoot with at least 1 model, but when that model is shooting, you fire all the models that are eligible to shoot at the 1 Crossfire target. Let's go through the other abilities before we analyze which units to put the upgrades on. Oppress the Oppressors is 2 planning points. You gain the Crossfire keyword, and in the shooting phase, after you have shot, you select 1 enemy infantry unit hit by your attacks if that enemy was the target of Crossfire. That enemy unit is suppressed. Each time it makes an attack roll, subtract 1 from the hit roll. A nice lasting penalty to that enemy, assuming you didn't wipe them out. As it costs 2 planning points, I would prefer 2 lots of Eyes of the Cult, so that 2 units have Crossfire instead of this 1, which would suppress an enemy. Or a unit can have booby traps for 2 planning points. No Crossfire keyword this time. but once per battle at the start of any phase, if this unit is within range of one objective marker you control, you can sabotage it. If you do, place this unit's booby trap token onto the objective. An objective cannot have more than one of those tokens at any one time. While an objective marker is booby trapped, it is sabotaged, and each time an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, fallback, or charge move within range of that objective marker, you roll a dice. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If at the end of any phase or turn that objective marker is under your opponent's control, remove the booby trap token. It's similar to an ability that the Vanguard detachment for the Space Marines have, but we don't get sticky objectives from it. It's useful if you control the central objectives near the start of the game. Then it's a great plan to booby trap them. Booby traps can be useful. Pure Strain Genestealers can do it. They have a pair of human-like hands and can infiltrate up the board. The Reductor Saboteur is another obvious and thematic option. Little bit of extra damage on those enemies. Lurk in the Shadows is a simple one. 2 planning points, infantry or mounted unit only. All models in this unit gain stealth. Great, good to have. Very Genestealer Cult. Coordinated Assault is 3 planning points. Models in this unit have the Crossfire keyword. Each time this unit declares a charge, if every target of the charge is a Crossfire target, you can re-roll the charge roll. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a Crossfire target, you can re-roll the hit roll. This is very powerful, because Crossfire doesn't require multiple units hitting it to be the target of Crossfire. You get additional benefits if there are more than one of your Crossfire units hitting an enemy. So this unit, let's say Hybrid Metamorphs upgraded with Coordinated Assault. They have Crossfire as part of the upgrade. They shoot all of their auto pistols at one target in the shooting phase. That enemy is now a target of Crossfire. They reroll hit rolls with their auto pistols, but I didn't select any other Genestealer Cult units with Crossfire to also target the enemy unit, so no +1 to hit or +1 to wound. The Metamorphs charge the enemy unit that probably didn't take any casualties from auto pistols, and I can reroll the charge as it is a Crossfire target until the end of the turn. In combat, I can reroll the hit roll. That is massive! Aberrants or Pure Strains would need outside help, because another unit with Crossfire would need to target an enemy with Crossfire, but this is a great upgrade for a unit. Let's look at the last option to see if coordinated attack can be topped. Squirming Advance, 3 planning points. Models in this unit gain the Crossfire keyword. At the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is not within engagement range of enemy units, you can remove this unit from the battlefield and place it in strategic reserves. Down we go and up we come. This is fantastic for the Host of Ascension, which gives you sustained hits and ignore cover when coming out of reserves. And as a Crossfire unit, they can get to a target you want to strike with multiple units. Which of our units want to have the Crossfire upgrade? Long range units for certain, indirect firing units definitely. The Ridge Runner is a very good choice. It is the unit we have to shoot at things indirectly and give an ability that's called Crossfire. The Crossfire rule doesn't replace its existing ability called Crossfire. So if you hit an enemy unit with 2 Ridge Runners, separate units, with mortars, and also a Neophyte unit, you'd hit them with 1 Ridge Runner first. Okay, so that first Ridge Runner is getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound. The second Ridge Runner is now getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound, and ignores cover because of the first Ridge Runner's Survey Augur, and also gets an extra -1 AP on their attacks because of the first Ridge Runner's on-unit Crossfire rule. And then the Neophyte squad, firing last, would get to shoot with +1 to hit, +1 to wound, an extra -1 AP, and ignores cover. Ridge Runners make this easy to pull off. You want the Ridge Runners to have the basic 1 planning point, you now have Crossfire. A Jackal Alphys is a good one. Units and characters share keywords, so if the Jackal Bikers had the Crossfire keyword, their Alphys in the same unit would also have it. A Lone Alphys is an okay option. They can shoot and scoot away. It is easy for one model that moves at high speed to be part of the 3 Crossfire units all going for the same target to get that +1 to hit and +1 to wound that all 3 units would enjoy. I think one way of using planning points is to go all in on Crossfire and have 6 units with Eyes of the Cult so they all have Crossfire. Or you can ignore Crossfire entirely and get booby traps and stealth, especially if you were in the Biosanctic Brood Surge and have very few guns. With the Genestealer Cult, careful planning and a bit of shenanigans means you get big rewards. This feels like how the Genestealer Cult are. If this was a detachment rule, and these were detachment abilities, it would be a very cool detachment that a lot of people who played 9th edition would be like, that one's my detachment from now on and forever. Which means we know that the Genestealer Cult December detachment, which is not out at time of recording, is not going to give a Crossfire mechanic. I don't see why that would give you Crossfire. Also, Ridge Runners have Crossfire. Also now a detachment that does Crossfire. It's still possible. The White Dwarf also comes with 6 more battle traits to upgrade your units for Crusade games. We have a lot of good ones already. Once per game, fight first? Well, how many times do you need to fight first in a game? But these are interesting. These are upgrades for any Genestealer Cult unit. You roll 1d6 to generate one, but if you have no ranged weapons, you can roll a d3 instead. So we've got, you can target a unit with rapid ingress for free, or enemy units cannot fire Overwatch against this unit, or when using a Shrewd strategy ability, the planning points needed are reduced by 1 if you're adding it to this unit. So those are the first 3, which you would get if you rolled a d3 because you have no ranged weapons. If you have ranged weapons and you're rolling a d6, the 4th one is massed firearms. Ranged attacks have reroll hit rolls of 1. And if you target a unit that contains your Crossfire target, sustained hits 1. Or ranged weapons have assault. Perfect for metamorphs and acolytes with hand flamers. And the last one is deadly feint. You can fall back and shoot, and each time you attack your Crossfire target, if you made a fallback move, you also have lethal hits. That second part is not going to come up very often. But there is a lot more for crusading Genestealer Cult armies. The Shrewd strategy and Crossfire rules are there to operate within a Crusade framework, but I see no reason you can't have fun with the rules in everyday games, especially if you feel like the new version of Cult Ambush is not as strong as it has been. I know you like fun. Go have fun. People have been asking for Crossfire for so long, especially as a replacement to Cult Ambush. Tournaments are unlikely to allow Crossfire. White Dwarf rules are often excluded. They only accept the core rules, the codexes, and about 116 of the PDF downloads from the Warhammer community website. If you want a refresher of the Genestealer Cult in Crusade, I have my thoughts on that in a conversation with Paul, who is bad at stuff, on Crusade. It's fitting considering he wanted to know more about Genestealer Cult, but disappeared while I was talking about them. Or you can brush up on an explanation of the new Cult Ambush rules. I think they're going to be good for us. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.